Everyone has a bright light inside of them that deserves to be seen by the world. That's why it's time to shine the light on the extraordinary who are accomplishing phenomenal things. This is the Shine Out Loud Show with Lillian Ogbogo.
Good evening, good afternoon, good morning, wherever in the world you are. Yes, it's that time again, another episode. And I am blessed and fortunate because I have a series of women who are just incredible this season. And my guest today is not shy of her incredibleness. She is a mother. She is a creative, she's a founder, but more importantly, she's a woman who has walked her walk. I am talking about Tamu Thomas. Now, she is the creator of a lifestyle brand called 30’s. This brand is aimed at busy women in their late 30s and 40s, and the brand speaks for itself because it's about that brand for women that want to simplify life and create a space for everyday joy. Now, as a woman in that age range, I'm saying yes, yes, and yes. So join me and welcome my incredible, incredible guest. Hey, Tamu.
Hey, what a welcome. Thank you so much, Lillian.
Oh, you are welcome. So, I can't stop waxing lyrical about you, and we met at a really incredible space of other amazing women in wellness. And the first thing that I was inspired by, or I noted about, was the fact that you have this kind of regal energy where you just own your space. So tell me, when you think about yourself, how do you define yourself?
Oh my goodness, you're starting with a really big one. How do I define myself? Gosh, I have been told, I know for sure, and I own that I have a strong presence. I don't think it's overwhelming, but I think it's strong. Generally, I would say that I feel that I have the right to take up space. I would say that within feeling I have the right to take up space, I would describe even myself as somebody that is very compassionate, very tuned in to what's going on in my immediacy. Right. Sometimes I have to have a nudge to look outside my window. And I would describe myself as somebody who is very giving. I love to build community. I love to connect people. I love to have real conversations with people that make us all think about what we're doing.
Okay.
And I would also say that I'm a trier. I'm not somebody that, and we'll get into this a bit later on, there have been points of time when I have, on the surface, I would say doubt myself. Right. But underneath that surface level of doubt, I always think I've got to give it a go. So I'm a trier. I'm not somebody that is scared of making mistakes in public. Yeah, I don't know. That was a bit nebulous, but...
No, I think actually that's fine, because I think that definition of you is a whole definition. And, I've had the good fortune of meeting you. And I think that is a true definition of you based on our conversation, based on your presence and your energy at when we met.
Oh, good. Thank you. I do try to be real and be my whole self, because hiding is so debilitating and draining. And yeah, that is why the brand is called 360, because what I have learnt I think I've known it all along, but what I've been able to fully embrace, and I think that becoming more mature, older, hitting my 40s, has enabled me to really step into valuing my wholeness rather than hiding parts. And it doesn't mean that I walk around with all of my, let's call them areas of development on full show.
Right.
But I am definitely somebody that is actively seeking, I guess, to explore my shadows, but not let them define me, and not be scared for people to realize that within this person that they see doing what at times appear to be amazing things, there's somebody who's still carrying the same, baggage that we all do, but I don't let it weigh me down.
Okay. In fact, that point about baggage, we're going to put a pin in it and come back to it, because actually that's a really important point. So your lifestyle brand, it's more than just lifestyle. There's clothes. It encapsulates so much. So let me just ask this, because we're going to, just do this for a quick second. Your past background is in your professional career has been in the social care aspect of work.
Yeah.
And that was your profession, and you did that for many years as a independent freelance capacity. So my question is, has anything that you've learned in that field helped with the nurturing and caring of your various businesses that you've had, especially 30’s?
Absolutely. And I would even step back slightly further. My natural nurturing element of my personality is what led me to social work in the first place. I didn't have a huge desire to become a social worker.
Right.
I'm not one of those people that all the way through their life, they really wanted to do this one particular thing, and they strived and they stretched and they did everything they could to do that one particular thing. But my personality traits and experiences I'd had, because my mum used to be a foster carer, led me to the career of social work. And I kind of thought it was fate. Literally, the week I decided that I was going to look at what I needed to do to study and become a social worker, I opened my local newspaper and there was a half-page advert for trainee social workers in my local authority. I applied for the job, I got the job. And that was that, really. Okay. But with social work, there are lots of elements of that are transferable to any business or career where you're dealing with people, because I would say that social work now, and for quite some time, social workers work in multidisciplinary teams, whether they're based in the same office or their colleagues are placed elsewhere, but you have regular access. And I was fortunate enough to work actually in a multidisciplinary team for a lot of my career.
Okay.
So I was sitting side by side with psychologists, with psychiatrists, with drug and alcohol workers, the whole gambit. And what my job was to distill, I guess, the theoretical aspects of their work. So they would do their assessments of families and parents and children using their expertise and their academic background. And it would be my job to distill that into a plan that was practical and workable to support families to make change. So I am very familiar with working with groups, working with individuals to put in place a tangible plan to assist them to not just make, but then move from making changes to sustaining changes. And so I have used a lot of the training that I had and the academic study that I did within social work to apply to the broader wellness aspects of the 30’s brand. But within that, I also had to unlearn and relearn some things, because when you're working with families that have difficulties, which, to be quite frank, could lead to them being separated permanently, yes. You are dealing with behavior that is based on not even surviving. And the 30’s brand is about thriving. So some of the skills and experience I had to strip that back and look at it from a different angle, because 360, there's a lot of chatter at the moment online about wellness and all that sort of stuff and mental health. And my observation is that it tends to be from a perspective of struggle and lack.
Right.
And I think that there is a space for discussions about positive mental health and people who, I'm not saying that those conversations about mental health difficulties and people who are stuck in negative cycles aren't very important. But what I've observed since starting 360 is that there's a huge swathe of people, particularly women within my age bracket, who are professional, who maybe have changed their careers because they've started a family, or they are a bit jaded with the career they've had for some time. There's nothing really that I'm finding to support people who are in a very comfortable comfort zone and want to stretch out of that because it's no longer serving them.
Right.
So the tools I've acquired, they are transferable. But as I said, through my own personal development and self-study and getting to know myself in my entirety and actually starting the process of 360, I feel like I have been given my assignment.
Your assignment. I
Yes.
like that phrase. I like that it's not a job, it's not a business, it's your assignment into the world.
Absolutely.
Oh, that's really nice. Okay, so looking at your assignment, looking at this labor of love that you are creating into the world, and being a total, it's not just lifestyle, it goes beyond that. It goes into clothes, you're moving in, because that is also part of your background is fashion. And so when you look at the fashion today, when you look at fashion and how women are being told to identify, how do you use 360 to change women's relationship to their body through clothes?
I would say that the clothing element is also part of lifestyle. And for me, what I'm seeing currently is that we have all been, for lack of a better word, groomed into the notion of, to a lesser or greater degree, to the notion of fast fashion and keeping up with trends. So if you Google or if you go onto a social media platform and put in hashtag fashionable 40s, for example, you will see, and this is my description, and I want to be clear, I'm not being judgmental about this. There's no shade with this whatsoever.
Okay.
But I'm seeing women in my age group being represented, which is beautiful, but it is from a very consumer perspective, and it is very much about keeping up with trends. And I think that when you are in this age group, it would be healthier for you to actually have a sense of your own style and dip in and out of trends or do what you want to do, but actually be guided by your own style and be guided by what makes you feel good. So with the initial capsule collection that came out in May, the thought, the intention, the concept was keep it simple. So every item of clothing is a one-piece item.
Nice.
And I was thinking about my principles of everyday joy. I think that we can all, and everyday joy, some people might call it contentment, they might call it satisfaction, but I think that we can all cultivate a sense of everyday joy with what appear to be small practices if we apply them regularly, not necessarily daily,
right,
but if we apply them regularly. And there's lots of research about what you do in the morning and how it impacts your day. So my thought is, if you have a complete outfit that makes you feel good, that makes you feel like you are who you are, you're not dressing like you're trying to be somebody else. And I know that that might sound like an oxymoron, because you might be wondering, well, how much can you do with a one-piece outfit? But, I've seen people style things in all sorts of different ways. But if you have a one-piece outfit that you know you're going to put on, and you're not just going to think you look good, you're going to feel good in it, you then have more time in the morning to do something that contributes to you having that sense of everyday joy that will ground you, anchor you to manage and navigate challenges of the day, whether that is meditation, whether that is some movement, whether that is journaling, reading a few pages of a book that helps you feel good. So the brand is all about things that we can do to create space so that we can cultivate that grounding sense of everyday joy, because I think that we can deal with most of the things life throws at us if we, or life provides for us, if we are walking around feeling grounded and purposeful rather than busy and distracted.
Right. Okay. So, and this idea about creating everyday joy within our clothing, within our day to day. So let's look at you. Let's look at you. How do you normally start your day? What are your daily practices?
Well, I'll be perfectly honest. My daily practices don't happen in the same way every day. I would absolutely love to say to you that every morning I get up, I have a green tea, I do some yoga. It doesn't always happen. But one thing I do for sure every day, I have a little gratitude book and I write in that. And it's not necessarily really huge things. Invariably, it starts with being grateful for having breath and being awake. But some way throughout the day, I will make a note of something, how I'm feeling, something that struck a chord with me. Sometimes that will turn into a full-on journaling sesh. Sometimes It will be a couple of sentences. Sometimes it will literally be something that I write a note. I've got a gratitude, a blessings jar, and I write something that I felt has been a blessing for the day and put it in that jar. So on the days when things are feeling a bit hectic and I forget, because I'm very good at forgetting all the things I have done and can easily switch on to just thinking about the things that I haven't done. So I have constant reminders. So that's the blessings jar, that's the journal. And something that I do more mornings than not, I listen to lots of books on Audible. So I will listen to a bit of the book before I get up out of bed. And that quite often leads to whatever it is I'll have in my journal or something. And in terms of movement, I keep it really simple. I do the cat-cow yoga pose, quite often repeating the mantra in my head, today I will be my own best friend. Because my theory is that I carry the weight of a lot of my isms in my lower back, which can be incredibly stiff, and also in my shoulders. So the cat-cow pose just warms that up. And whilst repeating today I'll be my own best friend, it limits the likelihood of me experiencing something that doesn't feel that great and falling into a rabbit hole of defining myself of that thing. Right. I can then look at it in perspective.
Well, I like those practices because what you're saying is one, hey, I'm not perfect. And two, it's actually very doable because, the self-help industry, you will have us run like a 30-minute program to an hour. And sometimes you're like, I have a day job. And some of us are parents. I have children screaming at me. I don't have time to sit and commune with the universe for 30 minutes because I have a hungry baby or I have to get myself ready to commute to work. I think
that we can often, and that this is something I hear a lot, we can often dupe ourselves into thinking that we don't have time to look after ourselves. Yeah. And equally, as you're saying, the narrative around it is that you need all this time. That would be the ideal. But so something I say quite often is this is about practical wellness. Yes. What is practical for you? We all, I don't care who we are, we all have time throughout the day where we can do something that will ground us. None of us are running Microsoft at this moment in time. And even Bill Gates, I'm sure. And I listen to a lot of business podcasts, and I read a lot of books and stuff about personal development and business. And what I'm seeing more and more and more is people realizing that if they don't take time to make time for themselves, burnout is around the corner, and the business dreams and desires they had fall short.
Exactly. For me, there are days where I wake up and I don't have the time, and I'm using that very specifically in the morning. But what I do is I make time. I will schedule, in my day job, I will schedule time in my diary as a meeting, as a standard meeting, and it's do not disturb. I have a meeting in there. I just don't tell people what it is. I put it as a private meeting, and I go for a walk around the block of whatever building I'm working in, or I go for a walk to to a particular point. And in that point, I'm either listening to my Audible or I'm having, loving conversations with myself. And that to me is part of my well-being practice.
Absolutely. I used to do that towards the end of working full-time in social work, I kept feeling to myself, if one more thing happens, I'm going to lose it. So we never used to take lunch breaks, because social work is the sort of career that says that you are doing your job properly. If you're running around like a headless chicken and you're looking overwhelmed, that is the sign of somebody that's doing their job properly.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah, literally, it's unrelenting. And when I got to a point where I thought, I can't continue in this way, I've got a child to look after, I have got, a life to live, I would actually take a lunch break. It would never be the full hour or 45 minutes, whatever I was entitled to. It could be 20 minutes, it could be 10. And I would just go into my car. It didn't matter if it was cold, as long as it wasn't raining, open the windows and listen to part of a podcast, because that made me feel like I could continue.
Yes. And I think it's very important that we find those moments. We find those moments in our day and just stop and just kind of recall our personal energy. And I think that's very important for all of us as women. And, the other thing I do, some nights I've gone to bed really late. My simple practice is I do this when I want to, is I send love to my body.
Yeah.
And that's it. I send love to my body, and I, different parts of my body, and sending love, saying thank you for supporting me throughout the day. And it's that simple. And I wiggle my toes and I find something to kind of giggle at before I go to sleep. And that will be my night.
I like that a lot.
that will be my nightly practice. And it's really that simple, because I would like to, I too will like to say, oh yeah, I journal and I meditate and I have my mantras. No, I just send love to my body and wiggle my toes.
Literally, sometimes by the time I get to bed doing all the things that I've been doing, I feel like I literally hit the pillow and that's it. So that sounds like a good way to go off to La La Land.
Yeah, it's actually interesting. And then I don't know whether that conversation is just me, but try it and come back to me and let me know. But I have parts of my body go, hey, you didn't talk to me today. Why are you not talking to me? So
Mom, you're leaving me out.
Exactly. So I don't know whether that conversation is just me, but anybody who tries it, don't come for me. Just have a conversation with your body, see what they say. If you have the same reaction. Oh, it's my little hilarity for the night before I go to sleep.
Yeah, no, I'll give it a try for sure.
Yeah, let me know. So, we keep talking about wellness, and wellness is this buzzword right now. It's what is, I think, sponsoring social media at the moment. But when we look at that wellness conversation and the imagery around wellness, it feels that, to me personally, that women of color are invisible.
Okay, we're absent.
We feel invisible or uninvited to the table. So how can we make the wellness conversation more diverse?
I think that in the first instance, I think that we as people, descendants of Africa, whether we are people of colour for sure, but my experiences as a Black woman and what I see is that wherever we are in the world, because of history, we have been conditioned to be stuck in a cycle of survival.
Right.
And when you're in a cycle of survival, you don't think that you have the right or the time to be looking at something that may seem frivolous, like wellness. And that's my view from what I've seen and from some things that I've read. I really feel like there are huge swathes of us that live in a social and economic environment which is hugely oppressive. So, and I'm going to be talking about money a lot more because I think that money really does have an impact on wellness. So if you are stuck in a cycle that has been designed for you to remain there, it's going to be very difficult for you to think that you can start thinking about meditating when you're constantly worried about whether or not you're going to be able to meet your basic needs, like pay your rent, pay your utilities. If you are constantly worried that your 17-year-old son may be stopped and searched by the police when he's on his way to college, if you are worried that you have managed to, just by the skin of your teeth, buy a property in an area that's slightly more desirable than when you were living previously, but you're worried that your children, when they go out, may get caught up in gang, whatever. Yes. I think it's really difficult for you to think about wellness. And then that is dovetailed with a lot of our ideology is formed by what society tells us. And society, for me, I'm talking about the media, the government, people in power. So if we are from, I guess, the bottom being held down, and then from the top, we are being pushed down with all these negative stereotypes and a constant news cycle of lack and struggle when it comes to people of African descent, it's very difficult to take up space. But I think that somebody like you, somebody like I, somebody like the women that we met up with when we went to the wellness meeting thing, I think that if we start talking and we make sure that we're visible, then we slowly start to change the representation. And I think that I'm not thinking about a seat at the table, to be quite frank, because that table is wonky and stale, and I don't think it's served anybody very well. I'm more about creating a community of people who can see by my actions, by the stories that I'm communicating, that it is possible to do things differently and still be successful. So I think it's about showing up and us being represented, and then on a more, grassroots level is actually having those conversations within the community. Because Lillian, the reality is we talk about the community, but there are lots of people who are the same hue as me that I don't relate to or have a lot in common with, because we come from totally different backgrounds. We come from different social classes. We're not a monolith. So I think that for me, I'm not in the position at the moment because I've literally maybe I am, who knows? But I think I'm not in the position at the moment. 360 just launched on the 1st of May. But what I would absolutely love to do is, as the business progresses and I am thinking about staff and interns and all of that, is to be looking outside of people that I relate to and giving other people opportunities to do something different. Sorry, I think I went off topic a bit, but
no, actually, I think you were very on topic and very on point, because it's about understanding that that table, maybe it's not about having a seat at that table, it's creating a brand new table that is more inclusive for everyone. So because the world as it is and the way those tables are set out also creates difficulties and binds for those who are sat at that table.
Exactly.
Because even
Exactly.
if they
That table has been built by patriarchy, capitalism, and ultimately white supremacy. I think if I was building a table, it would be more of a coffee table. It would be a round coffee table. There would be some comfy chairs going all around it, so that we are meeting each other there on the same levels, on the principle that we are all human beings.
Yes. Yes, I like that coffee table. We should talk about having that coffee table.
Indeed.
You know,
Indeed.
and you know, when we hold that picture and talking about the wellness spaces, then I guess what we need to do with women who have the voices, women who are currently sharing our voices, is to make sure that we are celebrating other women who look like us, who are creating those spaces for wellness conversations that are more inclusive. We need to celebrate those women who look like us and others who are saying, you know what, I have a space that is diverse. I'm not, I am doing everything I can to make sure that you feel welcome, and we should acknowledge them for that.
Yeah. Absolutely. And I think that it's a really interesting time. And, you know, I know lots of people have lots of gripes with social media, but I really do believe that there are lots of social changes that are occurring because of people feeling emboldened and empowered to raise their voices in a different way using social media. I'm having, not often, but I'm having meaningful conversations with European women, with non-Black women of colour, who are really exploring their prejudice. And they're not just talking about, oh, I've read Reniedo Lodge. They may have read that book, but they also have seen things and are thinking about their experiences and are challenging themselves to do things differently. So I remember when I first started, somebody said to me that they thought it was really great that I was creating this space for Black women. And I said that whilst I am a Black woman and I'm at the centre of the 360 brand, it is not exclusively for Black women. It is for women, full stop. It is for women in our late 30s and 40s, because the conversations that millennials are having, for example, and that they've grown up with about diversity and inclusion, we didn't have them.
Right.
My experience when I was their kind of ages were conversations about multiculturalism. And when I reflect, that was a myth. The multiculturalism that I grew up with was about assimilation, and it was about ignoring huge, gaping, great big elephants in the room to pretend that we were all in this together. But the moment you mentioned anything to do with racial injustice, oppression, any of those sorts of things, you were silenced. And you weren't just silenced by non-Black people or non-people of colour, you were also silenced by people that looked like you, because we have been brought up in a system where we are worried about challenging the people that hold the purse strings and the people that have the power by making them feel uncomfortable when we talk about our lived experience and all of the academic and empirical evidence there is that supports our lived experience.
Don't rock the boat. Oh, no, you don't want to. Yeah.
All of that. So I think that there's a different conversation. And whilst there is definitely a need for people, marginalized people of any description, to have a safe space where they're able to openly and freely have discussions about things that are impacting them and what we're talking about in this conversation, impacting their wellness. But I also believe that in order for there to be wider societal change, I need to, number one, first and foremost, just be myself as I am. If you like it, you like it. If you don't, you don't. Not everything's for everybody. And I certainly am not a shapeshifter. bending and flexing myself to fit in with other people. But I also think that there needs to be me having discussions as and when I choose about things that impact me, that other people can read, hear, and think about. It's not my job. I don't have to do that all the time. I'm not here because I think it is my duty to educate people about racial injustice and all of that. Number one, it's not my job. And number two, for me, that's quite oppressive. If I'm constantly having conversations with people and I'm constantly trying to educate people about all of the issues that impact Black people of any social class, I will feel depleted and drained. But that is a part of me, that is a part of my experience. So it's definitely something that I will speak on as and when, and act on as and when I feel called to do so.
You know what, you actually, that point you made about, you know, your job is not to fight every day, not having to prove the reason why you have the right to exist every day, because it's tasking and tiring, and you're not a martyr to the cause. You also have the right to just exist as Tamu.
Exactly. And I talk about it and in a quite a throwaway way, but I actually mean it. Right now, when I'm talking about my assignment, I feel like my assignment is thrive mode. I am not going to be able to occupy my space in thrive mode if I'm constantly having discussions that are centered on lack. It doesn't mean that I'm not having them. It doesn't mean that I'm not aware of the things that are happening. But I think that somebody like me, who is of two immigrant parents, who came to this country when, you know, my mum talks about being in school and the first time she was getting changed for PE, somebody, before she was getting ready, because she was very, very shy, pulling up her skirt because they wanted to see if she had a tail. So I've come from...
Sorry. Could you say that again, please?
In the 60s, when my mother first started to go to school, she was getting changed for PE. It was one of her first PE lessons, and she saw girls just whopping their clothes off. She wasn't used to that, and my mum was very, very shy. So she was taking a while to get ready, and somebody decided that it's because she's got a tail and pulled up her skirts to try and see her tail.
Okay, I don't even know how to respond to that. And my brain can't wrap around that, but yeah, okay.
I know. But, you know, the point is that racism, sexism, all of the isms, homophobia, anti-Islam, all that sort of stuff, it is so oppressive. And I believe that there is more than one way to tackle it. I don't have to be having arguments with you. I don't have to be shouting knowledge at you. I can live my life and you can see me living my life, especially as I'm putting my hat in the ring to be a visible person trying to live this life. I think that I can create change by doing that, as well as the people who are on the end of the scale where they are challenging, and because I just think it's a different type of challenge. For me, my challenge is showing people that look like me and others and people who are in my age category that we can live differently. It's also me living a life where my daughter sees me and how I move through the world as normal. My siblings, I'm the oldest of three, the two of them see me living this life. My nephew, who's only 2, will get on the floor and cat cow with me when he sees me doing it. I am
Oh,
hoping that people within my network, it's like a ripple effect.
yes.
And I think that can be another effective means of me living my best life and also showing people other.
I think it's your working on your happiness, your everyday joy, and that infects other people. And I'm being very deliberate with the word. It does infect other people, because I have the saying that goes, when mama ain't happy, ain't nobody happy. We forget that we are almost, for a better choice of words, the temperature gauge for
This
others.
is a fact. People
And
can comment what they want to comment. These are the facts.
we are a temperature gauge for others. And so therefore, and I say this, and I don't say this lightly, I say this where I say self-love is our act of,
It's radical.
religion. It's radical, is our act of religion, is our act
Absolutely.
of godness, is self-love, is not just our birthright, it's our birth default position. Because if we are not in love with ourselves, those around us cannot find love for themselves.
Lillian, I had a period of not. I had a period of the period that led to me starting 360. I was not loving myself. The conversations I was having with myself, my diatribe about myself, it was not loving. And I didn't realize it because I had really bought into this very patriarchal ideal of what it is to be successful and what it is to be, I don't know, let's just say successful, full stop.
Right.
And that led me to a constant rat race in busyness. Ask me what I achieved, because that rat race was like a merry-go-round. And I remember having a conversation I was having a conversation with a friend, and my daughter very flippantly said, but mummy, you're always having panic attacks or something like that. And I listened, but I heard, but I didn't completely listen.
Right.
And it fast forwarded to a point where I was doubting myself so much and really not appreciating my value as who I am, full stop. My value was very much attached to what I was doing, that I did actually have a panic attack. I had a panic attack on the way to work. I was going to court. It was a case that I knew very well. I was very confident about, and that's another thing. When you're working in social work, I constantly had the thought that my work could end up in court at any point in time, because unfortunately the families that we work with, there are a few of them, a significant enough proportion that end up in the legal system, and everything you do is questioned. And I did that job because I really care about people, and also with the underlying notion that I could always be in court. I always felt that whatever decision, recommendation I was making was based on a solid body of work. So I wasn't worried about the fact that I could be challenged and cross-examined. But I went to the wrong court because I was given old information. I was so panicked about the potential for being late that I had this feeling that I had had before, but this time it was worse. I felt dizzy. My leg felt like it was going to give way. I was sitting at a bus stop, smartly dressed in my suit, and I could see people questioning whether or not they should stop. I guess my presentation and how I was presenting were at odds, and I had to really get myself together to be able to get to where I was going. And I really was feeling so down about myself. I thought, I'm going to go and see my GP because this just isn't normal. And in conversation with my GP and doing this test thing that I'd already done because I knew how to access those sorts of things, it basically said that at that point in time, I was, I was severely, moderately depressed or something. Okay. And when I had a conversation with a trainee psychotherapist, there were when I was explaining the sequence of events that had been happening over a period of 2 to 3 years and culminated with me having a panic attack at the bus stop, they were saying that the likelihood is that I'd had low mood / depression for some time, but I had ignored it and kept carrying on. That then led to anxiety, ignored that, kept carrying on because I was like, I've got to push through, I've got to keep going. And then that led to me having a panic attack. So all of those things unchecked led to my body telling me, I've been giving you these signs, you've been ignoring me, you're not going to keep doing this. So that, as much as at that period of time and that period of, say, 2 years was really, really challenging emotionally. And also turning 40, like I thought that 40 was a really magical age, that June the 24th was going to come and bam, I was going to be this magical person stepping in her purpose and all of that. But I hadn't done anything to create that 40-year-old woman that was purposeful and all the rest of it. So that experience of me not loving on myself and not listening to myself and not listening to the cues my body was giving me put me in a position where I had to slow down. I had to stop. I had to stop distracting myself with busyness. I had to actually look at me, full stop, and the good, bad, indifferent, whatever you want to call it. And in that process of being forced to slow down, being forced to actually really dig deep into the center of myself and really look at myself in my entirety, at that time it felt like The Exorcist was in town. But after that, it has been the most enlightening, freeing, beautiful experience that has enabled me to design a life and work that I love and passionate about. I really firmly believe is of service to people and is also something that I believe can be financially viable.
Okay. And sometimes it happens that way, that our disasters, our whatever we want to call it, is just to take us to a point where we see ourselves as going, okay, so this is what I'm meant to do.
Yeah. Battling for the seat at that dingy table led me, I won't say it's the worst challenging mental health experience there is out there, but that was enough for me. And also coming from the professional background that I come from, I not like I knew exactly what to do, but I had a good sense of what it was or what it is that I need to do in order to be able to be the best version of me, I guess. And that's when I really was able to put down this notion of trying to get a seat at the table. That seat, it's not for me.
Okay. Yeah, like, thanks, but I don't want it, and I'm going to create mine. Bye.
Absolutely.
I like that we are beginning to say, I can say I don't want that, because I've learned I understand what works and what doesn't work. And I've had to learn that because I've had to face all the things that I despise in my world. I've had to experience, I don't like this experience. I don't like that experience. And getting to a point to say, I no longer want this. This is not what I enjoy. Thank you. I've experienced it. It doesn't, this won't end well. So I'm going to go away now.
And moreover, I think for me, my experience was I was very good at saying what I don't want, what I don't like. But at that point in time, at that point in time, if you asked me what I do like, if you asked me what I did want, apart from something like, I don't know, roller skating, which I love, it would be very difficult for me to tell you what I love, what I like outside of the people in my life. To ask me about what makes me feel, what enables me to love myself, I would have really struggled to tell you that. If you were to ask me something that I could do right now in this moment to help me, feel this sense of everyday joy, I would have really struggled because I was so focused on what I didn't like. And what I believe is that because I was so focused on what I didn't like, I was just calling more of that into my life.
Yes. And sometimes we need to change the viewpoint. And, we just need to go enough and change what we look at.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Literally. Lillian, how many times have you had an experience where, for example, you look on one side, the easy analogy, you can look outside your back window if you live in a house where you've got a garden, and depending on which garden you look at, some gardens are beautiful, some gardens are a disaster. Which garden are you going to choose to look at?
For me personally, I won't look at the disaster like, okay, that's what your garden looks like. Okay, I'm going to move it, keep it moving.
Exactly. Whereas previously, I would have sat down judging that garden.
Yeah, no, that sounds like too much work.
And can you imagine? I'm really grateful for it, but it's at the age of 40 that I actually really was able to fully own that sitting down in judgment of other people just meant I was sitting down in judgment of myself.
Yes.
What beautiful experience are you having sitting in judgment?
You know what? I'm we can talk about this particular thing for another hour, because that in itself, because it kind of rounds into this, where we tell other women who look like us how they should be and present to the world. And then we start going into the, a Black woman is conversation.
Exactly.
Then we go into
respectability politics and all of that.
Then we go into the strong Black woman, and
Oh.
you're a strong Black woman and you got to do. No, let me tell you what I got to do today. Today might be the day where I get to pull the duvet over my head and stay under the duvet. And I'm okay with that.
I'm nodding, yes.
I don't got to do nothing. And
Exactly.
I think we need to start learning how to release that. And I am sitting here thinking, oh, Tamu, I could sit here and talk to you for another 2 hours about this, but I realize I haven't even asked you a third of the questions I want to ask you. Listen, I could sit here and talk about this all day, because when we look, in fact, let's just highlight this. Recently, we had, it's funny how we as Black women, we pick certain people and they become the face of who we should be. They're the Black girl magic. They're the woman living the Black girl dream. And you know who I'm talking about here. Our icon.
Yes.
And sister.
Are we talking about Lady O?
No. Lady O is that's a different temple and church to go to. We're talking the Church of Serena.
Oh my goodness.
We're talking about Serena Williams. The Church of Serena, the champion, the this, the that, the that.
Listen, that woman is always delivering scripture.
And she had a human moment. And oh God, the conversations, there were Facebook debates for days about Serena Williams, and I'm not going to get into the rights, the wrongs of it, because we know that umpire needs to fix his damn life because he's a fool. I'm sorry. That's my only countenance in this. But
Serena, you on that occasion, you gave women who were ready to receive that message, a message that said, you are allowed to be a human being.
Thank you. That was the message. And and it's funny because I read different conversations, and I'm very good at going and reading and going, okay. Let me respond to this. No, this is not my fight. And there was a comment that struck, actually there was a theme of comments where there were those who were hailing Serena for speaking up and feeling the depths of her anger that she is, I'm trying to find the words here, that she is rightly entitled to as a human being. And, and there were those that were saying, well, but as a woman, you can't be like that. Or as a Black woman, oh, you think you're someone. And I was watching these conversations back and forth, but there was a theme that almost suggested that she did not have the right to express herself in the way that She did. Yet there's another tennis player who has made his career on expressing himself that way. But it's okay because he's a dude.
Exactly. And
It's
he's a
okay.
white dude at that.
Exactly.
It happens. And sometimes I think, gosh, what are you seeing? What are you reading that you're still buying into these really oppressive patriarchal narratives about what it is to be a woman and what it is to be a black woman? Like, we have to be upholding this purity trope more so than anybody else, because you know what they're going to think of us. They're going to think it anyway.
Exactly. Oh, you don't want to say that. You don't want to wear this, especially woman. You're a woman over 40. You don't want to be dancing like that. Like, I'm sorry. As long as I have knees that work, feet that move, and a body that jiggles, I will dance as I please.
Thank you very much. If you saw me at my 40th birthday party, a friend of mine will still joke about how literally I danced from the moment I got there till I got home.
Yep.
Let me move the way the good Lord has given me the power to do so. If you don't like it, mind your own business.
Now, if you don't like it, you can look the other way or leave. I'm not stopping you. This is your choice. But
yeah,
let me live. Just let me read.
Listen, don't hate on my moves, man.
We should go partying sometime. I think that's what we need to do.
Absolutely.
We should gather a group of amazing women in their 40s and go out, party, come home, and go, yeah, tomorrow, wait, hold on, Tamu, I can't move. But it was
Where's
a good
that
night.
magnesium bar?
I can't move. I'm going to need the sea salt and the magnesium and a prayer.
Literally, I don't mind when it has been worth it. If it has been worth it, that is absolutely fine.
You know, so okay, let's bring this back home, because I have a few more questions for you.
Okay.
But before we jump into our questions, let's go into what we have, because in the show we have a segment called our So Loud Moment of the Week, which is where we get to celebrate and cast a light on a person, an idea or a thing, and it could be something close to you, others that you want to celebrate for the amazing things they do.
Lillian, I am blessed to be in the position where I am surrounded by that. It's going to be really difficult, but the person that I am going to really toot and celebrate is my friend. Oh gosh, I've got two.
You can deliver two. Two is fine.
Thank you. Okay, so first and foremost, I am going to celebrate and toot the horn of my friend Evadne Davis.
Okay.
She is a stylist, and she has a movement, let's say, on Instagram called Mums That Slay, where she celebrates mums that are, or women that happen to be mums, let's say. Mm-hmm. And she is holding her first panel event on the 14th of November. And for years, I've known her for 2 years. And throughout that time, she's been talking about having a live event, and she's actually doing it. So I want to raise her up, because she really is a beacon for women of colour, women full stop, that happen to be mothers. So I really want to celebrate her. Okay. And then another friend, Sarah Gregory, yesterday she launched with a friend of hers who is called Sarah, a online news journal which is called About Times. And that journal is a publication which is totally by women. All the stories are from women. It's published by, edited by, and it is a really beautiful, it's like a piece of tapestry with various types of content from women from all sorts of backgrounds, but it's not about women's issues. It's women talking about worldly issues, and it is such a beautiful publication. And Sarah is such a mega amazing woman. I'm really pleased, proud and grateful that she has done what she's doing and Evadne's doing what she's doing.
Awesome. So please provide us with your links so that we can share that with our listeners on Twitter and all the other social media spaces. Yeah. And you know what? These amazing women that you've just shared with, for their soul out moment deserves a huge rip roaring round of applause.
Hooray! Absolutely, absolutely.
You know, so let's go back into the questions, because, you know, looking at 360, looking at this business that you have birthed into the world, what is the one core thing that you want this business to, let me rephrase that you want this assignment to be known for? What do you want its legacy to be?
I would like the legacy of 360 to be a community that gives women, particularly women approaching or in their 40s, the permission and the tools to thrive. We spend so much time surviving life, and I think that the women that I'm speaking to and the women that are responding to what I'm saying are women who, with some tweaks, could live. And I'm not saying tweaks because they're lacking anything, but with small practical changes could go from living a life where they feel like, I don't know, it's a lukewarm bath, to living a life where they feel like they're in this beautiful, invigorating shower.
Nice. Okay, that's a good legacy. That is a good legacy, and that is something that I think we need to watch for, because I think that you are on the road to achieving that.
Please God, thank you.
You know, looking at, you know, you started like 360, you had another fashion brand, and I wanted us to talk about this before, because this I thought was fascinating, that you started a fashion brand. Now, remind me, I have the name right here. Kenema and Co.
It was Kenema and Co. And then it kind of filtered into Kenema. Yes, I did.
And you started this after having a dress designed, and somebody said, oh, you should go to that designer and start bringing in clothes. And you said, nope, you wanted to make your own clothes. Why did you not take the option of saying, yeah, I can just work with that tailor? Why did you go that option and to create your brand?
I've been brought up in a family with, well, my maternal family, where women work for themselves, and they work not on their own terms, but kind of on their own terms. They have a choice in what it is that they were doing. And I'm not the sort of person that has ever been satisfied with just taking on what somebody else has done or somebody else is doing. I'm creative, not creative in a way where, you know, I'm going to draw a picture that's ever going to be hung anywhere near the Sistine Chapel, but I'm a creative thinker, and I like to put my spin on things. And what I was seeing, so at that time, the brand was working with what are known to be African textiles, wax cotton, and also heritage fabrics from Sierra Leone. Okay. So that's in Sierra Leone, they call it country cloth. I think it's Asheoke in Nigeria, Kente in Ghana. So the strip woven cotton cloth. I wanted to find a way of using those fabrics to create clothes that we would wear every day in quote unquote the Western world. And at the same time, being of Sierra Leonean parentage and knowing the difficulties there are with poverty, access to education, and women being second-class citizens, basically, I wanted to do something where I could create something that we like and enjoy in England and America or wherever else, and was empowering for people there. So that's why I couldn't just go to any old tailor and say, can you remake 20 of these dresses?
Right. Okay. And, you know, we look at this, and this is something that I'm beginning to look at more and more with 360, with the fashion brand, you know, with everything that you've done. How did you, and I'm asking, you know, how did you work through or push past your imposter syndrome?
Gosh, it's an ongoing process. But having experienced something where I had no choice but to slow down, it gave me, and reading lots of personal development books, and listening to various podcasts and stuff like that, it gave me the opportunity to slow down and think about myself in my entirety. But what I would say, I've read books like that for years, but the experience that really helped me to develop practical tools, well, I had coaching with Nicola, A Life More Inspired, who has also been on your show.
Yes.
I started off having one of her 90-minute style sessions, and within that 90 minutes, she was really able to help me distill a lot of the knowledge I had acquired from these books and stuff I knew already, but she had tools that helped me literally turn what I was doing on its head, really. So she said one sentence. So when I was talking about, for example, being inconsistent, she was like, but that's a story. You can tell yourself another story. And what does consistency look like for you? Consistency for some people is doing the same thing every day at 9 o'clock in the morning. Consistency for another could be doing that every other day. Consistency for somebody else could be doing it every day at some point in the day. You've got to work out what is consistent for you. And a year before that just would have made me bristle. I would have felt like that was an excuse.
Right.
But that's because I was giving myself a hard time. So yeah, and then later on, a few months later, I joined her mastermind, which was simply designed for women who had the idea or were in the process of starting a creative business and needed to do the inner work that would, I guess, release them to be able to go out and birth their creative idea. So that was really instrumental. So imposter syndrome is still live and direct. Yesterday I was on ITV News at lunchtime with Charlene White talking about ethical fashion.
Yes.
And immediately I thought, oh my gosh, I don't know anything. What am I going to do? People are going to be looking at me like I don't know what I'm talking about. But what I now know is that's my default surface. So I was able to say, I know what you're doing. What you're not going to do is block me. I know what I'm talking about. I've got this. So working with Nicola helped me. I wouldn't say that it stopped, but I can catch it really quickly and say thank you and pack it off.
And that's actually very, very important. Oh, and I like the fact that, you're aware it's an ongoing adventure. Mm-hmm. It's an ongoing dance, and you just learn to dance differently.
Basically.
Exactly. So looking at your journey so far, what advice would you give your 18-year-old self?
Oh my gosh, what advice would I give to my 18-year-old self? One part of me is saying nothing because that led me to my now 41-year-old self. But the other part of me would say, live your life. Because at 18, I went to university because I thought I should. I just lived according to lots of I should be doing this, I should be doing that. And I firmly believe if I had thought about what I want to do to actually live my life, I would have made different choices. But I'm not saying that in a way where I'm like, oh my God, I should have done all this stuff. It's just doing work that has enabled me to recognize that I played small because of believing things I should have done. And I might have lived a grander, in inverted commas, life if I had just gone for me.
Okay. So what are you currently reading? Or what was the last book you read?
Oh gosh, Lillian, I'm a damn nightmare. I read like so many things in tandem. So at the moment, I am reading actually sitting down and reading You Are a Badass at Making Money by Jan Sincero.
Oh, I love Jan. Oh my God, I love Jan.
I'm new to Jan. I literally saw in a forum somebody talking about the impact that book had. Mm-hmm. So I'm reading that, but this was recommended by Lucy Ashworth. I'm listening to Get Rich Lucky Bee. I'll just say B, by Denise Duffield Thomas, because I have lots of blocks about money.
Right.
So I'm really actively working to dismantle those. And I am always listening to or reading something by Marianne Williamson.
Okay. All right.
So at the moment, what I often listen to before going to bed is A Year of Miracles, which are daily devotions and prayers that she does about various things. And even if it's not directly what I'm thinking about or something that's directly going on, there's always layers that I can apply. So yeah, those are what I'm reading and listening to at the moment.
Okay. Well, let me know how the Lucky Bee book turns out, because I will, it was recommended to me today on my Audible, so I was kind of
really?
eyeing it. So let me know.
Get it.
Okay.
I'll tell you that already. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Okay, cool. So that's going to be my next purchase on Audible. So I have just a few more questions for you. Mm-hmm. How do you deal personally with setbacks?
Before, there would be something that defined me for quite a while, but now I just constantly look for the lesson. Constantly look for the lesson. So I've had, they're not major, but I've had a couple of setbacks. So, for example, I'm developing a range of candles. I ordered the wrong thing. No, I didn't order the wrong thing. I thought I had ordered what I needed, but I didn't, because I wasn't paying attention. So there was a slight delay in the production. So at the moment, there are lessons, setbacks, lessons that are telling me to pay attention. So now I'm listening and paying attention.
Okay. I like those.
I haven't killed anybody, so I haven't killed anybody. I haven't hurt anybody. I haven't made anybody, lose something significant. I'm just literally looking for the lesson. I've got no time to beat myself up anymore.
Oh my God. I swear I believe we are spiritual sisters, because, yeah.
Seriously, that's so 2016, 2017. There's no room.
Listen, I woke up this year and I realized, because I've had some setbacks.
I woke up this year.
Yeah,
yes.
I woke up this year and go, wait, nobody died. Nobody lost their pinky toe, so I'm okay.
Thank you.
As long as I haven't made you lose your pinky toe, you're good.
Exactly.
If any situation... If you lose your pinky toe from interacting with me, then I will be sorry. But apart from that, well, okay.
Let me get the lesson and apply it.
Exactly.
Apply it. Yeah.
So what's next for you?
What is next for me? I had my first retreat in September, which was absolutely beautiful. So I'm going to be doing more of those. The next one is in February. In the next 6 weeks, I will be launching my next collection and some other products. So what is next for me is to continue to build the 360 brand, raise my profile, and because what I would like to do, within the next 2 years, I'd actually like to have a physical space where I am selling my products and creating experiences for women to be able to cultivate a sense of everyday joy. So I keep thinking to myself, if this was it's a shop, but it's also a multi-purpose space. So if this was my multi-purpose space, what would I be doing? So I am trying to live that slop. Please God, no. I am trying to live that shop / multi-purpose space now.
Right.
So that I'm actively building towards it.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's what I'm doing now.
All right. So if women out there want to connect with you, want to go, you know what, I need to find out more about 360 and how I can incorporate this in my life, how can people reach you?
I'm very active on Instagram. My Instagram handle is at live360, and that's all letters. So it's LIVETHREESIXTY. Or if you go to my website, which is live360.com, literally that's the hub for everything I'm doing and leads you to my various social media profiles. So that would probably be the best place.
Tamu, I cannot thank you enough for being on the show. It's been absolutely brilliant today. And I am looking forward to all the things that are coming, yet to come, and have come from 360. And can I just make a single request for your next collection? Could you please make pants for women who are not tall, not short, not petite, but have long legs and can't buy pants in the store, please? Can you please?
Oh gosh, at some point in time, I will be able to have a lot more flexibility. The reality is catering, lots of bloggers, for example, talk about clothes being true to size. There's no such thing as true to size because we all have different lumps, bumps, shapes, curves, and whatever else. What I would like to work towards is to be able to have ranges like a petite range, a tall range, and all the rest of it. But at the moment, I need to work with what I have where I am. But it is definitely coming. And before we go, Lillian, I'd really like to say thank you so much for asking me to be on your show. Thank you so much for the work that you do.
You're welcome.
Thank you so much for sharing in the way that you did when we met back in August or something. I can't even remember when it was. But yeah, your natural way of being just really gave me some nuggets to think about, as has this conversation. And we need to have more and more Lillian in our lives. Oh my gosh, yes. And that day that you didn't realize you were dragging me, when you were dragging me about, I think it was about playing, about gremlins preventing us from doing what we were needing to do.
Yeah.
My confession, I didn't do it, but I did something else. So thank you very much for being somebody that provides me with nudges to be a bit bolder.
You were so welcome. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And yes, definitely more conversations as we create that coffee table that is going to spark brand new conversations, a circular economy, and a way of being where we are our own best friends. So thank you for being on the show.
Thank you.
All right, folks, you know what comes next. If you want to hear more about the show, connect with us and stop by our website, hit our Twitter button, follow us, become friends on Insta. Tell us what you want to see and hear more from. And if you know an incredible person that needs to be on the show, send us a message. Goodbye.
You've been listening to The Shine Out Loud Show. If you want to connect with us or let us know what you thought of today's show, be sure to follow us on Twitter at Shine Out Show.